What happens when the future you've built your life on becomes obsolete overnight? That was the question racing through Emily Carter's mind as she stared at her laptop screen in stunned silence. On the live stream, the CEO of Koenigsegg stood on a circular platform, flanked by two black-veiled cars. The camera panned over an audience of journalists and engineers who had flown in from every corner of the world. The warehouse was sleek, minimalist, Scandinavian to its core, a shrine of innovation. Then the cloth was pulled off. The car underneath was like something out of science fiction. Smooth, predatory lines. No charging port. No exhaust. No visible intake. Just one bold silver emblem stamped on the hood and a single word on the bottom of the screen. HIMR, powered by breath, not batteries. Emily felt her stomach drop. This isn't possible, she whispered. Behind her, the soft hum of her apartment's fridge was the only sound. The glow of the screen lit her face, wide-eyed and pale. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard. She was a systems integration lead at Tesla. The person who should have seen this coming. Instead, she was watching her entire career burn down in real time. "You're probably wondering what you're looking at," said the Koenigsegg CEO on screen, his voice calm, almost too calm. "This is not an EV. And it's not combustion. It's something entirely new." The chat feed exploded. "What the hell does that mean? Is this a joke? Hit subscribe if your brain just broke. No electric motor. WTF?" Emily leaned forward. She wasn't like the rest of the viewers, she knew what the industry was hiding. She'd worked on every iteration of Tesla's drivetrain tech for the past 8 years. She had designed part of the inverter architecture that powered the new Cybertruck prototype. And now, this. "The HIMR engine breathes," the CEO continued. "It uses atmospheric oxygen to create kinetic energy through a closed-loop thermal reaction, no carbon, no charge. No compromise." He stepped back. A second man approached. Young, sharp-featured, nervous, probably a lead engineer. "Think of it as a lung," he said. "It inhales, transforms, and exhales. It runs on air, literally. All with zero emission and zero recharge time." Emily blinked. Her brain scrambled to do the math. No battery. No lithium supply chain. No rare earth dependencies. This wasn't just a better EV. It was the end of EVs. She closed the laptop with a shaky hand. Her phone buzzed immediately, Slack messages from her team, a missed call from her boss, notifications from engineering groups lighting up like wildfire. Her fingers hovered over her keyboard, then paused. What could she even say? Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from, the live stream replayed in her head. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emily walked to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. Her hands trembled as she drank. Memories flooded her mind. Late nights in the Fremont plant. Hours spent testing thermal regulation models. The smell of hot metal and ozone in the Tesla test bays. Elon's mantra echoing in her head, "We're not building cars. We're building the future." Was that future dead? At Tesla, they had always whispered about Koenigsegg like a myth. Sure, they made hypercars. Beautiful machines, ultra-light, ultra-fast, ultra-expensive. But they weren't a threat. Their niche market made them irrelevant to the EV revolution. Or so everyone believed. But this? This wasn't niche. This was war. She opened her phone and scrolled through internal group chats. Michael_B, are we even allowed to comment publicly? Zara.T, just saw the demo. WTF are we doing? Lead engine_Eric, half the team's on panic calls. Emily, what's your take? She started typing a reply, then stopped. What was her take? Deep down, she wasn't angry. Not yet. Not even afraid. She was curious. How the hell did they do it? A knock at the door snapped her out of the spiral. It was late, past midnight. Cautiously, she peeked through the peephole. A man in a dark hoodie stood there. Familiar posture. She opened the door a crack. Jason. He looked up. Disheveled. Eyes red. A tablet under one arm. You saw it? He asked. Emily nodded slowly. Jason Wu had been her closest collaborator at Tesla for 4 years, and, for a while, more than that. They'd broken up 6 months ago. Work pressure. Trust issues. She never expected to see him again tonight. I need to show you something, he said, walking in without waiting. He laid the tablet on the counter and pulled up a schematic. It looked like nothing Emily had ever seen. Where did you get this? She asked, eyes narrowing. Jason looked at her seriously. A whistleblower. Swedish IP. Came through a security loop last week. I didn't believe it until tonight. On screen was a partial blueprint. An engine schematic, no pistons, no rotors, no batteries. Just layered pressure channels, thermal chambers, and something called HORE, Hybrid Oxygen Reactive Engine. She stared at the acronym. Horse, she said, incredulous. Jason smirked. Bad name. World-changing engine. Emily leaned back. Her entire chest felt heavy. If this was real, if Koenigsegg had actually built a working HORE engine, then every EV automaker in the world was suddenly 5 years behind, including Tesla. She looked at Jason, 1,000 thoughts fighting for control. Why are you here? She asked. He paused. Because you're the only one who can figure out how they made it work, he said softly. Pittsburgh smelled like steel and oil in the winter. Emily Carter could still remember the exact scent, motor grease on her father's hands, exhaust in the alleyways, snow crusted in the corners of the garage where he worked. That garage was where everything started. She was 7 when she first crawled under a car. Her dad, Dave Carter, had been a mechanic for over 20 years, the kind of guy who could fix a fuel pump with his eyes closed and diagnose a carburetor by sound alone. He didn't own a single suit, but he had more integrity than half the engineers Emily would one day meet in Silicon Valley. Come here, Em, he'd said, holding out a wrench half her size. You strip this bolt, we're both grounded. She'd stripped it. They'd laughed about it over dinner. It was the first time she ever felt proud of failure. In high school, Emily outpaced everyone, not just in science, but in focus. Other kids were daydreaming about prom or road trips. Emily was sketching battery arrays on her notebook margins and building solar chargers out of junk parts. She took on after-school shifts at her dad's garage, not for the money, but for the puzzle. Machines made sense when people didn't. But underneath her ambition was a fracture. Her mother had left when Emily was 11. No note, no warning. Just gone, vanished into a silence her father never explained. Emily grew up learning that control was an illusion, but building things, that was real. That lasted. She applied to MIT with shaking hands. Her dad didn't understand what the application even meant. They'll never take a girl from here, he'd said, not unkindly, just honest. But they did. She got in on full scholarship. And for the first time in her life, Emily Carter left Pittsburgh behind. Cambridge was cold in a different way. Elite. Efficient. Brutal. She was one of 5 women in her advanced systems program. Most of the others came from prep academies and family names that opened doors. Emily came with a socket wrench and attitude. She nearly dropped out her first semester. But then she met Dr. Minji Park, her mentor in alternative propulsion theory. Minji saw what others missed. A mind built for chaos, wired for solving. Under Park's wing, Emily began to thrive. She built microgrids, redesigned failing fuel cells, even led a team that presented at DARPA's Clean Tech Incubator. Her junior year, she interned at SpaceX. That's where she met Jason Wu. Jason was soft-spoken but ruthless in the lab. They clashed instantly. He called her designs messy genius, she called his soulless math. But over weeks of long nights and late coffees, they found something in each other. Mutual obsession. Silent respect. And a connection Emily hadn't felt in years. They dated through graduation and applied to Tesla together. Got hired the same month. The first 2 years were magic. The work was relentless, but they were building the future: battery banks, motor architecture, machine learning for autonomous systems. Elon himself stopped by their lab more than once. Emily was the one who first got the lithium-nickel ratio down to the sub-millimeter tolerance. Jason optimized it. They made a hell of a team. Until they didn't. It started small. Missed calls. Late nights that became all-nighters. Jason began working more closely with the finance side, strategy, cost reduction, patent monetization. Emily stayed in the lab, chasing purity over profits. She'd catch him looking at her like a stranger sometimes. Once, during a product review, he openly disagreed with her projection in front of the board. She didn't speak to him for 3 days after that. And then came the whisper campaigns. Rumors that Emily had been too aggressive with an internal project. That she'd leaked performance specs to a third-party supplier. A baseless claim, but Jason didn't defend her. He stayed silent in every meeting. The silence spoke louder than guilt. When she confronted him, he just said, "You know I can't pick sides." That night, she packed her bag and left his apartment for good. Now, sitting alone in her San Francisco loft, those memories flickered like a reel of film behind her tired eyes. The glow of Jason's tablet, still sitting on her counter, felt like a ghost from another life. He was back. With answers. Maybe even with remorse. But she didn't trust easily anymore. Outside, the city moved like nothing had changed. But something had. Deeply. Emily walked to her desk and pulled out an old folder, real paper, something she hadn't touched in years. Inside was her original MIT thesis, handwritten notes from Dr. Park, and a childhood photo of her and her dad standing under a half-restored Mustang. On the back, her dad had scribbled, "You'll build what I never could. Just keep your hands dirty, and your heart clean." She smiled through the sting behind her eyes. He passed away 2 years ago, heart attack in his sleep. She never got the chance to show him the prototype she built for Tesla's new cell stack. He would have hated the new cars anyway. Too quiet. No soul. But this new engine, this Koenigsegg miracle, it might have impressed even him. Her phone buzzed again. Another call. Not Jason this time, Zara Talib, her friend and fellow engineer at Tesla. Emily answered. "You're watching the fallout?" Zara asked immediately. Her voice was sharp, clipped with panic. "I saw the reveal," Emily said calmly. "You think it's legit?" Emily paused. "Yeah. I do." A silence on the line. Zara exhaled. "Then we're screwed, aren't we?" Emily looked down at the schematic still glowing on the tablet. The Hoare engine. A machine that breathed. "We might be," she said. "But I'm not ready to give up yet." Most people only knew him from the headlines. The memes. The tweets. The rockets. The chaos. But Emily Carter had sat across from Elon Musk in a windowless Fremont conference room, heart pounding in her throat, as he flipped through her proposal with bloodshot eyes and a half-drunk Red Bull in hand. "It's not ambitious enough," he said without looking up. Emily swallowed. "It would increase energy density by 28% while reducing thermal load by Yeah, and it's safe. Too safe. That was the first time she'd heard it. The unspoken command that came to define her entire career. Be bolder. Or be replaced. Working at Tesla was like living inside a supernova. Everything moved fast. Too fast, and no one cared if you got burned as long as the product launched on time. But Emily didn't just survive. She thrived. She wasn't flashy. She didn't pitch herself as a tech genius like half the guys in her division. She didn't golf with investors or sweet-talk managers. She built. Give her a broken circuit and she'd have a solution before lunch. Hand her a failed test result, and she'd rewrite the whole integration model in a day. She wasn't there to make headlines. She was there to change the world. The lab at Fremont smelled like ozone, dust, and ambition. Glass walls, whiteboards covered in equations, 3D printers buzzing like bees. It never slept. Neither did Emily. During crunch weeks, she'd rack up 110 hours. Jason once found her passed out under a desk with a box of Pop-Tarts and a notebook full of hand-calculated thermal conversions. It was brutal. But it felt like purpose. Elon visited her division every few months, unannounced. He never said much, but he remembered everything. Names. Specs. The way she ran simulations without leaning on AI too heavily. He liked that. Old-school hustle. You think like a machine but work like a rebel, he told her once. Don't ever lose that. She never forgot those words. They felt like approval, even affection, from a man whose praise was rarer than gold. But being in his shadow came at a cost. Her first wake-up call came during the Nova Cell rollout. Tesla had promised a breakthrough in battery compression technology. Emily's team delivered it, a leaner, faster energy cell that could fit into the new Model S redesign. But the pressure came down hard. Marketing demanded impossible deadlines. Finance slashed the raw materials budget. Testing protocols were skipped, corners cut. Jason was the first to cave. It doesn't matter if it's perfect, he said. It just has to launch. Emily disagreed. Loudly. Publicly. That's when things started to shift. Suddenly, her projects were reassigned. She was pulled off high-level tasks. Whispers in meetings. Hard to work with. Too rigid. Slowing us down. She'd been loyal. She'd sacrificed everything, sleep, relationships, time with her dad before he passed. And now, she was being sidelined. For what? Speaking the truth. Then came the incident. An internal build leaked to a third-party supplier, performance specs that matched her team's unreleased design. Legal flagged it. Security launched an investigation. And somehow, her name ended up on the watch list. She knew it was a setup. Probably someone trying to redirect heat. But Jason didn't say a word. When she asked him, flat out, if he thought she'd done it, he stared at the floor and said, "I don't know anymore." That was it. She sat alone in her apartment that night, lit by the cold blue of a blank email screen, trying to figure out what hurt more, the betrayal from Tesla, or from Jason. All those nights spent chasing the same dream. All that passion. Gone. She stayed. She didn't quit. But something in her did. Months passed. She was moved to special research, the polite term for exile. Still on payroll. Still working. But kept out of the real decisions. And the irony? She was working on something real. A conceptual propulsion model built around compressed atmospheric energy. Sound familiar? It wasn't fully formed, not even close. But the seeds of it were there. And no one listened. Not Jason. Not her managers. Not even Elon. This isn't the direction, he told her in a 2-minute Zoom call. Focus on scalable battery improvements. That's where we win. She bit her tongue. If only he'd looked deeper. If only someone had believed her. Now, a year later, she was watching Koenigsegg roll out the exact principles she tried to champion. The closed-loop reaction system. The air-based kinetic engine. A vehicle that breathed. And her name wasn't on any of it. Jason showed her the blueprint last night, but it wasn't proof. Not yet. The real proof was in how Tesla was reacting. Panic. Silence. Retooling meetings in secret. Zara texted again. Just heard we're halting one of the Cybertruck variants. You think this is connected? Emily didn't reply. Of course it was connected. She pulled out her old lab notebook. The original sketches she'd drawn up during her isolation months. Notes scribbled in Sharpie. 3 days after Koenigsegg's reveal, the world still hadn't caught its breath. Stock markets trembled. Wall Street analysts scrambled. Tech blogs ran headlines like, "The end of EVs? Koenigsegg's engine, disruptor or vaporware? Did Elon just lose the future?" Inside Tesla, everything got quiet. Not the good kind of quiet, the kind before a storm. Emily Carter sat in the back corner of a conference room at the Fremont facility, watching executives circle the room like vultures. The Koenigsegg demo played on mute on the big screen while a group VP clicked through a slide deck with shaky hands. "Until we get confirmation of proprietary tech," he muttered, "we assume this is smoke and mirrors." Hype. PR stunt. Emily leaned forward. With all due respect, that wasn't hype. That was an engine that runs without a power source. The VP looked annoyed. "And your expertise on thermal-based propulsion systems now makes you an expert in European Black Ops engineering?" Zara, seated beside her, gave a subtle nudge under the table. Emily didn't flinch. "No," she said calmly. "But I know when something's real." And that was real. The VP moved on without responding. Typical. That night, her inbox pinged. An email. No sender. No subject line. The only thing inside was a single sentence. "We built what you sketched." Attached, one low-resolution image of a hand-drawn diagram, her diagram, the same one from her Tesla lab notebook. Same notation. Same margin scribbles. Even the stupid little doodle she drew of a coffee cup next to the heat transfer coil. She stared at it in disbelief. Whoever sent this had seen her work. Or stolen it. She checked the metadata. Location, Gothenburg, Sweden. Home of Koenigsegg. Her heart raced. She quickly encrypted the file and deleted the original email. Then, after a long minute of staring at the screen, she pulled up a new tab and searched for the earliest commercial flight to Scandinavia. She hesitated. If she went, it meant leaving Tesla. Probably for good. But staying meant silence. Isolation. Watching someone else take credit for what might have been her life's greatest work. She booked the flight. Gothenburg was cold, but not Pittsburgh cold. It had a sterility to it, clean streets, silent trams, gray skies stretched like canvas across the bay. Emily checked into a minimalist hotel. No luggage, just a backpack, a laptop, and one worn leather notebook. She waited. The anonymous email said only one thing after the attachment. "If you're serious, be at Café Nordum. 9 a.m. Thursday. Come alone." She'd arrived Wednesday night. The next morning, she dressed in jeans and a neutral coat, tied her hair back, and made her way to the café. She chose a table in the back. Ordered coffee, black. At 9:12 a.m., a woman walked in. Tall, angular. Scandinavian features. Blonde hair in a tight bun. Black turtleneck. purposeful walk. She sat across from Emily without a word. They locked eyes for a full 10 seconds. Then the woman spoke in perfect English, low and controlled. "I'm Anna Lindholm. Lead systems engineer for Project Him." Emily didn't breathe. Anna slid a tablet across the table. No password. No introduction. Emily opened the schematics. There it was, her architecture. But evolved. Sharper. More efficient. They'd solved the cooling issue. They'd redesigned the airflow algorithm. But the core. Still hers. She looked up, stunned. "You used my design." Anna nodded once. It was the only one that worked. Emily sat back, trying to steady her thoughts. "How did you get it?" Anna hesitated. "That's not the important question." Emily frowned. "Then what is?" Anna leaned forward. "The question is, why is your name not on any of it?" That hit harder than Emily expected. She looked down at her coffee, suddenly feeling 13 again, holding a stripped bolt in her father's garage. "I wasn't important enough," she said quietly. "I worked in shadows. Built things and let others take the credit. That's how it works at Tesla." Anna watched her carefully. "It doesn't have to be that way here." Emily raised an eyebrow. "What are you offering me?" Anna glanced out the window, then back at her. "Not a job. Not money. Just a chance to finish what you started. And to do it right." Emily felt like she was on the edge of something massive, terrifying and beautiful. But then she remembered the engine. The tech. The implications. "You realize this changes everything," Emily said. "The energy market. The global economy. EVs, become obsolete overnight." Anna nodded solemnly. "Which is why people will kill to stop it." Emily stared. "That's not a metaphor," Anna added. "We've already had 2 break-ins at the prototype lab. Our head of cybersecurity vanished 2 weeks ago. The world's not ready for this. But it's coming anyway." The air between them turned heavy. Emily knew the risks. Big tech. Oil lobbies. Even defense contractors, they'd all feel threatened by this. But she also knew something else. She was done watching from the sidelines. Anna stood up. "There's a car waiting outside. You can come with me. Or walk away." Emily looked down at the tablet again. At the design she'd scribbled in a lonely lab, months after her career had been derailed. Now it sat in front of her, alive. Real. A piece of the future with her fingerprints all over it. She stood up. "I'm coming." The warning signs had been there. Emily just didn't want to see them. She remembered the first time her design file showed a red notification from someone in Strategic Innovations, a department she wasn't even cleared to collaborate with. She brushed it off, maybe it had been reassigned. Or maybe Jason had shared it. Then came the project reshuffle. Her proposal for a closed-loop, oxygen-reactive thermal engine had been marked non-viable, archived, and pulled from the roadmap. 2 weeks later, the department shifted focus to battery cost optimization. "We're in a bottleneck," her director told her. "Let's get real. Nobody's ditching batteries anytime soon." But someone was. And they'd used her work to do it. Back then, she still trusted Jason. He was running point on several cross-departmental integrations. And though they weren't dating anymore, there was still a silent thread between them, years of collaboration, late-night code reviews, whispered dreams of retiring on Mars. They met for drinks one night at a dive bar near the mission. Jason was on edge. His eyes darted, and he nursed his drink without touching it. "You okay?" she asked. He paused. "You ever get the feeling someone's watching?" he muttered. Emily raised an eyebrow. "Like, surveillance? Jason didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a flash drive from his pocket and pushed it across the table. What's this? Backup of your test simulations. Just in case. Her blood turned cold. Why would I need a backup? Jason looked down. Because they're cleaning house, M. 3 days later, her access was cut. No warning. No explanation. Just a red screen when she tried to log into the secure R&D system. She was told it was a technical error. Then security showed up at her lab and asked for her badge. It wasn't a firing. It was worse, a soft erasure. HR scheduled a transition review. PR put her on a non-disclosure clause with 6 months of severance. Her name was quietly scrubbed from internal documents related to the project she'd built from the ground up. She went home that night and sat in her dark apartment, staring at her prototype sketches spread across the floor. Her dad always said, they'll either pay you or steal from you. You better be ready for both. She hadn't been. The flash drive Jason gave her revealed something she hadn't expected. The original timestamps on her oxygen-reactive propulsion work had been edited. Metadata altered. In Tesla's internal system, her name had been removed from the earliest tests. Someone had rewritten the narrative. Buried her. She knew Jason hadn't done it. He was sloppy but not malicious. Still, he hadn't fought it either. He'd watched her burn. And now, seeing his face at her door weeks ago, after the Koenigsegg reveal, it was all starting to make sense. He knew. In the present, the Swedish countryside passed outside her window as she sat in the back seat of a matte gray Volvo. Anna Lindholm drove in silence, eyes focused on the winding forest road. Emily finally spoke. You know they stole it, right? Anna didn't look over. We suspected. But not from where. Emily clenched her jaw. They erased me. Changed timestamps. Jason, she stopped. Someone gave Koenigsegg access to my internal build folder. That's how you got the design. Anna nodded. It wasn't an official leak. Emily turned. Then who? Anna hesitated. Then she said a name. Niklas Svensson. The name meant nothing to Emily. He was one of your early patent reviewers, Anna explained. He used to be Tesla. Swedish dual citizenship. Transferred to a supplier in Malmö last year. We think he smuggled out part of your proposal and used it to pitch to us. Quietly. Emily blinked. My design's been passed around like a football and no one even. She stopped. Anna looked over. You okay? No, Emily said. But I will be once I finish this. They pulled up to a nondescript building outside a wooded area, low profile, like an old aircraft hangar. The gate scanned Anna's credentials and hissed open. Inside, the space was colder than Emily expected, not physically, but emotionally. Clean. Almost surgical. Rows of CNC machines. Black glass lab rooms. Digital whiteboards with names she didn't recognize. And in the center, a single car under a tarp. Anna walked her straight to it. Emily, she said, voice calm but firm, what you're about to see, is the culmination of everything you started. She pulled the tarp. The car underneath was unlike anything Emily had seen, sleeker than a Tesla, wider than a Rimac, with air intake panels designed like gills. It looked alive. Codename, Himmer 1. Emily stepped closer. Her fingertips brushed the smooth aluminum. There was no vibration. No hum. Just silence. But the power was there. Waiting. She looked to Anna. It runs? Anna smiled. It doesn't just run. It breathes. They led her to the observation deck above the test floor. Anna pressed a button. The room below buzzed. The Himmer's gills fluttered slightly. And then, in complete silence, the engine activated. No roar. No whir. Just, presence. The thermal gauge climbed. A gentle pulse echoed through the floor, the kinetic breath of a machine unlike anything on Earth. Emily felt tears rise, unbidden. It was her dream. Her engine. Alive. Anna turned to her. We want you to finish it. Tune it. Lead the next iteration. Emily stared down at the Himmer, heart racing. She'd been erased once. But not this time. This time, she'd fight for her name. The worst part about sneaking into a place you used to call home, is how familiar everything feels. Emily Carter stood across the street from the Tesla Fremont campus at 3:42 a.m., dressed in jeans, a black jacket, and an old badge clipped to her belt. The gate lights still flickered the same way. The wind still smelled like metal and ozone. She hated that it felt like coming back. Next to her, Zara Talib sipped coffee from a gas station cup, looking like she hadn't slept in 2 days. You sure about this? Zara asked, glancing toward the fence. Not even a little, Emily muttered, but I need the original project logs. The ones with my name still on them. Zara exhaled. I had to bribe an IT guy with Ethereum just to unarchive the right node. They've locked everything tighter since the Koenigsegg reveal. You've got 20 minutes before their internal sweep catches anomalies. Emily tightened the strap on her backpack. 20 minutes is plenty. They slipped in through the service entrance near the West Annex. Zara's clearance still worked. Barely. Once inside, they moved fast, ducking through dimly lit halls and passing rows of glass-walled labs now filled with people Emily didn't recognize. The air inside Tesla felt colder than she remembered. Colder and quieter. Like a place that had started eating its own people. Here, Zara said, guiding her to a secured terminal in an unused testing room. This one isn't monitored full-time. Just run the port scan patch I gave you. Emily nodded, plugging in the drive. Lines of code fluttered across the screen as the system decrypted buried logs from a partition no one had touched in a year. Her heart pounded. There it was, Prototype X7, Atmospheric Thermoreactive Engine. Engineer Lead, Emily Carter. Submittal date, January 18, 2024. Review, Nicholas Svensson. The file was untouched. Unedited. The original. Proof. She downloaded everything, test logs, lab cam screenshots, raw code data. Then, just as she was about to eject the drive, the lights flickered. Zara looked up. That's not good. Emily froze. Did we trigger something? Zara pulled out her phone. They've got activity near this node. You've got 60 seconds before they trace the breach. Emily yanked the drive and stuffed it into her bag. Let's go. But as they turned into the hall, they heard footsteps. Voices. Not random employees. Security. Crap, Zara hissed. We'll never make it back to the service door. Emily scanned their surroundings. Then she spotted it, a janitorial stairwell tucked behind a fire door. This way. They ducked in, shut the door behind them, and crouched in the dark. Footsteps passed outside. Emily could barely breathe. Then Zara whispered, "Why is Svensson's name still in the system if he's been gone almost a year?" Emily didn't answer right away. Because the answer scared her. Once outside, they ran. Down the side alley, past the charging lot, and out through a broken service gate. Only when they were half a mile away did they finally stop. Emily doubled over, lungs burning. Zara handed her a water bottle. You got what you need? Emily held up the drive. Proof of authorship. Unedited metadata. Original timestamp. Her name. Her work. Undeniable. Zara shook her head. You realize this puts a target on your back now, right? This isn't just patent theft. This is corporate espionage. Emily looked at her, jaw tight. Then let them come. Back at her apartment, Emily plugged in the drive and copied every file 3 times. One local. One on a secure cloud vault. One to send to Anna in Sweden. She stared at the screen long after the upload bar finished. She should have felt vindicated. But all she felt was rage. Because she knew exactly what had happened now. Niklas Svensson had accessed her proposal under the guise of internal peer review. He stole the concepts, white-labeled the IP, and quietly slipped it out just before he left Tesla. Jason must have known. Maybe not the details, but enough to stay quiet. They'd sacrificed her to keep Tesla's hands clean. Buried her future to protect the brand. Her phone buzzed. Telephone receiver unknown caller. She hesitated. Picked up. Emily Carter, a crisp voice asked. Speaking. This is Agent Reese, U.S. Department of Energy. You've recently been in contact with foreign developers regarding sensitive propulsion technology. We'd like to speak with you, in person. Emily's mouth went dry. Am I being charged with something? Not yet. Click. The line went dead. She stared at her phone. How did they know? Had someone tipped them off? Had Tesla already escalated it? Or worse, had Jason called it in? She called Anna immediately. They're on to me, she said. We know, Anna replied. Our servers were pinged by a U.S. cyberdefense proxy node 4 hours ago. We're rerouting everything. You need to get out of the country. Emily blinked. You mean, for good? Anna's voice was firm. You've seen too much. You're part of this now. If you stay, they will find a way to silence you. Tesla can't afford to have their theft exposed. And governments have their own interests in keeping disruptive technology under wraps. Emily looked down at the USB drive in her palm. Once, it had just been a dream. A design. Now, it was a revolution. And revolutions always come with a price. She took a breath. When's the next flight to Gothenburg? The Himmer one was a beautiful, dangerous machine. To most eyes, it looked like a hypercar, sleek, low-slung, all carbon fiber and attitude. But to Emily Carter, it was something more. It was a lung. It breathed. She stood in the center of Koenigsegg's black site lab outside Angelholm, wearing a thermal jumpsuit and scanning a wall of diagnostics on a floating holodisplay. Her eyes darted between airflow metrics, thermal dissipation curves, and kinetic loop timing. Every number mattered. One misstep and the engine wouldn't just stall, it could rupture. Burn itself from the inside out. Combustion is for dinosaurs, Anna had said. This is respiration. But the Himmer wasn't stable. Not yet. The biggest issue, oxygen saturation feedback, was too unpredictable. The engine inhaled air through adjustable gills, separating oxygen to ignite a pressure reaction, then exhaled heat and inert gas. It was clean. Silent. Efficient. And terrifying. Because the reactions occurred in micropulses measured in milliseconds, faster than any human brain could interpret in real time. The AI core that managed the balance had to anticipate atmospheric shifts, moisture levels, and wind drag with preemptive corrections. In short, it had to feel the world around it. And right now, it was still learning. Emily swiped open the latest test logs. Run 74. Minor success. Run 75. Partial ignition failure. Run 76. She paused. Run 76 hadn't been authorized. She tapped it open. Thermal spike detected. Oxygen load exceeded by 6.3%. Emergency shutdown triggered. Who ran this? She muttered aloud. Not me, said a voice behind her. She turned to see Max Jorgensen, Koenigsegg's lead AI engineer and resident enigma. He wore the same black hoodie and quiet grin as always. I thought Anna froze all test permissions until the new calibration sequence was in place, Emily said. She did, Max replied. Someone overrode the freeze. Emily narrowed her eyes. You. Max smirked. I'm not suicidal. They stared at the data together. Run 76 showed someone had tried to manually tweak the AI's intake parameters, a stupid, reckless move. What if it had ignited inside the chamber, she asked. It would have ruptured, Max said simply. Big boom. Emily closed the file, fury rising in her chest. Someone inside the team was playing games. And in this lab, with this tech, there were no second chances. Anna called an emergency briefing. They met in the observation room, where the Himmer-1 rested under soft UV lights, like a creature in stasis. Emily stood beside Max, arms crossed. Anna entered last, holding a tablet. No one is to touch the intake calibration until the AI has passed the next 3 simulations, she said. Someone ran an unauthorized ignition sequence last night. A murmur ran through the group. One guy, a tall, tan-skinned propulsion engineer named Rafik, looked particularly uneasy. Anna scanned the room. If you were testing a theory, come forward now. This isn't a school project, this is bleeding-edge propulsion. You risk not just the prototype, but everyone in this facility. Silence. No one spoke. Emily's jaw clenched. Cowards. After the meeting, Max caught up with her in the hallway. You think it was Rafik? He asked. I don't know, Emily said. But someone in that room doesn't want this tech stabilized. Why sabotage it? Max asked. If this thing works, it'll rewrite the future. Emily paused. Then said, maybe that's the problem. Max raised an eyebrow. You think Tesla has someone inside? I think they have to, Emily replied. They wouldn't let this thing rise without knowing exactly how to kill it. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat alone in her temporary housing, staring at the drive she'd brought from Fremont. Her name on the original design. Nicholas Svensson's signature on the peer review. She still didn't know why he'd stolen it. Or who he'd been working for when he smuggled the idea into Koenigsegg. But she did know this. Whoever had the Himmer-1 engine in production first, controlled the future. It wasn't just about cars anymore. This tech could change aerospace. Military defense. Energy independence. Countries would fight wars over it. And someone had already fired the first shot, from inside their own team. The next morning, Emily went straight to the lab. She reran the simulation from the unauthorized test. Only this time, she watched every command input in real time. Then she saw it. A digital fingerprint, a sequence of manual override keystrokes that matched an old Tesla macro. One used internally in their R&D labs. She stared at the screen. This wasn't a random tweak. This was a message. Whoever ran that test didn't just want to sabotage the prototype. They wanted Emily to know it was Tesla. She slammed the emergency stop. Stormed into the main lab where Anna was consulting with Max. We've got a mole, Emily said flatly. Anna turned. You're sure? Emily showed her the keystroke pattern. I use this sequence every day at Tesla, she said. This isn't accidental. It's a calling card. Anna's jaw tightened. Then we have a bigger problem. Emily frowned. What's bigger than a mole? Anna held up a tablet. On it was a decrypted internal memo, intercepted by one of Koenigsegg's cybersecurity traps. Emily's eyes widened as she read it. Tesla is planning to announce an atmospheric engine prototype within 60 days. Her mouth went dry. How? She asked. They don't have the tech. Anna nodded toward the Himmer one, glowing under the lab lights. They don't, she said. But they have you. The hardest part wasn't facing Jason again. It was remembering she used to trust him. Emily stared at the phone in her hand, thumb hovering over the call button. The decrypted memo from Tesla still sat on her laptop screen like a ticking bomb. Prototype announcement, Q2 window. Core design based on early internal architecture, modified. Public claim, original IP. She knew what that meant. Tesla was planning to unveil her engine, rebranded, rewritten, stripped of her name, and act like they'd been building it all along. A lie dressed up in slick marketing. She tapped the screen. Telephone receiver dialing. Jason L. 1 ring. 2. 3. He picked up. M. Her throat tightened. Don't act surprised. Silence. Then, I figured you'd be calling me sooner or later. Let's not pretend we're old friends, she snapped. I know what you did. More silence. Then, which part? That stopped her cold. She expected denial. Not this, honesty. Start with how you let them erase me, she said. Jason exhaled on the line. You were already out. They made the decision above me. I couldn't stop it. You didn't try, she said. I did, he said quickly. I pushed back. Quietly. I got shut down. And then the legal team stepped in, and she cut him off. You leaked my design. No, I didn't. Don't lie to me. I'm not. He sounded strained now. I didn't leak anything. But I knew someone else was sniffing around your files. And I didn't stop it. Coward, she thought. Then, softer, was it Svensson? Jason paused. Yeah. He said he was doing a competitive audit. R&D level stuff. He had clearance. You believed him. I didn't think they'd steal it outright. I thought, he stopped. I thought they'd shelve it like everything else that was too risky. Emily gritted her teeth. They didn't shelve it, Jason. They sold it. To investors. To the damn government. And now they're fast-tracking a version of it with my name scrubbed off. Jason was quiet for a long time. Then, I know. She should have hung up. But something in his voice, regret, fear, made her pause. Why are you still there? She asked. Jason laughed bitterly. Because I'm not you. I don't burn bridges and disappear across continents. I stay. I compromise. You betray. He didn't argue. Then he said, they're tracking you, M. You know that, right? I figured. DOE's watching Koenigsegg. The Pentagon flagged the engine design as a potential, global destabilizer. You're officially a national security risk. She swallowed hard. That's what I get for inventing a clean energy source. Jason lowered his voice. They're going to bury this. One way or another. You, them, the car, all of it. She leaned against the wall, heart pounding. Why tell me this now? Because I made the mistake once of not protecting you. I'm not doing it again. He sent a file. Encrypted. No title. No preview. What's this? She asked. An internal planning document. Their launch pitch deck for the Tesla Phoenix. That's what they're calling it. She opened it. Right there, in bold font across the top slide. Phoenix, the future is breathing. Her stomach turned. They're going to steal the entire narrative, she said. Not just the narrative, Jason said. They're working with DoD contracts now. If your engine works without a grid, it becomes a field powering unit. A battlefield generator. A space vehicle drive. Emily's knees buckled slightly. Her vision blurred. They weren't just stealing her tech. They were weaponizing it. That night, Emily stood alone in the Swedish lab, staring at the Himmer-1 as the room darkened around her. The prototype looked like it was asleep, gills closed, sensors silent. Max approached from the shadows, hands in his pockets. "Heard you made a call," he said quietly. She nodded. He leaned on the railing next to her. "You okay?" She didn't answer for a while. Then, Jason confirmed it. "Tesla's trying to beat us to the punch. Not because they understand the tech, but because they want to control the narrative." "Bury me again." Max tilted his head. "So what are we going to do?" Emily looked up, her eyes steel. "We finish the Himmer. We stabilize the engine. And we show the world what clean energy looks like before they can twist it into something it was never meant to be." Max grinned. "Now that's the Emily Carter I heard rumors about." She gave him a sidelong glance. "Rumors? That you once ran a full engine test with duct-taped coolant lines and a prayer." She smiled despite herself. "Worked, didn't it?" Later that night, a secure message pinged her laptop. From Jason L. Subject: "One more thing." Attachment: .mp4 video file. She opened it. A shaky cam clip, looks like someone secretly recorded a Tesla boardroom meeting. Elon Musk was on screen, mid-sentence. "We don't care if she built the first model. We control the patents now. We control the rollout. If Koenigsegg goes public with their version, we bury them. NDA lawsuits. IP battles. Government pressure. Delay, delay, delay. By the time they catch up, we're already in production." Emily's hand clenched into a fist. So that was it. Tesla didn't want to compete. They wanted to own the story. Rewrite it. Turn her into a footnote. She leaned back, took a breath, and whispered to herself. "Then I guess it's time we give them a story they can't erase." The war didn't start with bombs or bullets. It started with a calendar. "Tesla's Phoenix reveal is set for July 12, Anna said, pointing to the screen. "That gives us 24 days. The war room was a converted conference space deep beneath Koenigsegg's innovation facility. The air was thick with stress and coffee. Whiteboards lined every wall, scrawled with propulsion schematics, media contact trees, security clearances, and contingency plans. Emily stood at the center table, surrounded by Max, Rafik, Anna, and 4 members of Koenigsegg's senior leadership. "What's our biggest obstacle?" she asked. "Stability," Max replied. "We're close, but the AI still hesitates during sudden airflow changes, too cautious." "Can we override it?" "Technically. Yes. Safely? Not yet." Anna chimed in. "We don't just need it to work. We need it to perform, under pressure. In front of the world." Emily nodded. "If we don't go first," she said, "Tesla will define the tech. They'll sell fear. Dependence. Control. We have one shot to change the narrative." Over the next 48 hours, the war room operated on caffeine and adrenaline. Emily barely slept. She bounced between diagnostics, test bench monitoring, and preparing a public pitch, the kind that could win not just investors, but hearts and minds. The plan was simple on paper: unveil the Himmer-1 to the public, in motion, running the atmospheric engine, in an unedited live demo. A transparent, full exposure approach. No cuts. No CGI. No lies. But the risks were enormous. "If anything glitches," Rafik warned, "the media will crucify us. They'll say it's vaporware. Fantasy. Another tech fairy tale." Emily looked up from the engine schematic. Then we make sure it doesn't glitch. They chose Berlin for the demo. Neutral ground. International Media Hub. Clean Energy Conference happening the same week. Koenigsegg secured an outdoor venue near the Spree River, dramatic backdrop, maximum optics. The Himmer prototype would arrive by air freight under full security escort. Anna pulled Emily aside after the briefing. You sure you're ready for this? Emily gave her a tired smile. Does it matter? Anna smirked. That's the spirit. Then she handed Emily a folder. What's this? Backup press release. If something goes wrong, we kill the live stream, pivot the narrative, and push the tech as, in development. It buys us time. Emily frowned. We won't need it. 3 days before Berlin, they ran a full engine test in the underground runway. The Himmer roared to life, or rather, whispered to life. The AI-managed airflow was now so precise that the car accelerated from 0 to 60 with almost no audible noise, only a low, resonant pulse like a heartbeat. Emily watched from the control deck. Max stood beside her, sweating through his hoodie. This is insane, he said. No combustion, no spark plugs, no batteries. Just pressure modulation and oxygen cycling. It's like, alien tech. It's human tech, Emily said. Or it was, before the wrong people took it. They ran the car through environmental shifts, simulated fog, heat, high-altitude conditions. The AI adapted in real time. No drops. No failures. No hesitation. Emily exhaled. We're ready. The night before the demo, Emily couldn't sleep. She stood alone in the Berlin hotel rooftop garden, watching lights from the Brandenburg Gate flicker in the distance. The whole city felt like it was holding its breath. Her phone buzzed. Text from Jason. Good luck tomorrow. For what it's worth, I hope you win. No punctuation. Just like him. She didn't reply. Then another ping, this time from Anna. Early alert. Tesla's running a surprise preview tonight. Leaking Phoenix specs early to control the news cycle. Emily's jaw tightened. She opened a live stream link. There he was, Elon, on stage at a private investor event in San Francisco, standing next to a slick, silver car with soft glowing vents. We call it the Phoenix, he said. It doesn't just run on air. It outsmarts the air. Emily almost laughed. She zoomed in. The intake vents were nearly identical to her original design. The airflow modulation pattern on the display screen behind him was even labeled the same way she'd written in her 2024 notes. They hadn't even changed the formatting. Just stole it wholesale. Our team has spent years on this breakthrough, Elon said. No competitors are close. The crowd applauded. Emily closed the stream. Enough. Backstage the next morning, the Berlin venue buzzed with energy. Journalists from 4 continents filled the grandstand. Drones hovered overhead. Live stream feeds rolled from every angle. Anna handed Emily a mic. You ready to make history? Emily smiled grimly. No. I'm ready to reclaim it. She walked out to applause, flanked by the Himmer one under a satin cover. Cameras flashed. Her hands didn't shake. She looked out at the crowd. A few years ago, I had a dream, she began. To build something that didn't just change how we move, but how we breathe. She gestured toward the car. What you're about to see isn't a concept. It's not a render. It's not theoretical. This is real. This is now. She paused. This is the world's first fully functional, zero-combustion, oxygen-reactive propulsion vehicle. And it's running on the air around us. She stepped aside. Anna tapped the launch key. The Himmer's gills fluttered. Its core pulsed. Then, silence. A perfect hum. The car glided forward across the demo pad, accelerating to 60 kilometers per hour, then 100. It hit the turn with grace, powered by nothing but physics, chemistry, and innovation. The crowd stood. The applause grew. Emily watched, heart pounding, eyes wet. It worked. It actually worked. Backstage, Anna grabbed her arm. You just changed the game. Emily looked at the screen. No, she said. I just reminded them who built it in the first place. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emily's phone rang at 2:47 a.m. She had barely closed her eyes, still replaying the successful demo in her mind, but now, the familiar buzzing from the bedside table was a harsh reminder that victory didn't come without cost. She rubbed her eyes and answered. What happened? It was Anna. They've hit us, she said, voice tight. We're under attack. All systems are down. Emily's heart sank. What do you mean, down? The entire infrastructure, Our R&D servers, the IP cloud, financial files, everything. They're encrypted. Someone's already inside our networks, and it's Tesla's damn fingerprints all over it. Damn it. Anna's voice wavered. They're also leaking false reports. They've already planted rumors with financial analysts, pushing a scandalous theory that the Himmer engine's tech isn't stable. They're even claiming we're lying about the AI. Emily's breath caught. This was worse than she imagined. Tell me you're stopping them. We're trying. Our IT team is working around the clock, but they've set up deep infiltration points across everything. They're locking us out of our own data. The weight of the situation hit Emily hard. The spotlight had barely faded from the Himmer demo, and now, Tesla was coming at them from all angles. They were playing for keeps, and they weren't going to let this fight slip away. Where's Rafik? She demanded. He's locked in a strategy meeting with security and legal. They're trying to get a handle on it, but... Emily stood up, her mind racing. Get him on the line. Now. By the time Rafik joined the call, Emily had already started pacing across the room. The dim lighting from the emergency lamps overhead only added to the growing sense of urgency. Talk to me, Rafik, Emily said, trying to keep her tone calm. We've confirmed it, Rafik said in a clipped tone. Tesla's using an international hacking group to manipulate both the media and our infrastructure. We've tracked their activity. Whoever they've hired knows our system inside and out. It's beyond simple sabotage, they're actively dismantling our reputation in real time. Emily gritted her teeth. How are they even getting this close? We underestimated them, Rafik admitted. Tesla's not just attacking us, they've been using sleeper agents. They've infiltrated our legal teams and even some of our contractors. What started as a few minor leaks exploded once they realized the size of our breakthrough. He paused. The encryption locks. That's their doing. They've planted ransomware across multiple sectors. Emily clenched her fist. I want every backup we have isolated. Block any connection to the cloud. Do we have any leverage? Not much, Rafik replied. Tesla's got a government-backed arm now. They've filed complaints with the SEC, with the Department of Energy. They're accusing us of stealth development of military-grade propulsion technology. They've got the FBI sniffing around too. We're getting hit from every side. Emily's mind flashed to the demo in Berlin. They were prepared for competition, for a tech battle. But this? This was a war of attrition, and they were fighting with their backs to the wall. We need to go public, Emily said, her tone unyielding. Expose them for what they're doing. Rafik hesitated. We could, but they've already started pressuring influencers, journalists. We don't have the media support yet. If we launch this without solid backing, we'll look like desperate victims, not innovators. Emily didn't have time for hesitation. We're not victims. This is war. By the time dawn broke, the battle lines were drawn. Koenigsegg's PR team was scrambling to manage the misinformation flood Tesla had unleashed. Every major financial outlet was suddenly questioning the validity of the Hummer engine's claims, with suspiciously similar language cropping up in multiple reports. The attacks weren't just digital. They were psychological. Tesla's strategy wasn't to outright deny Koenigsegg's innovation, it was to paint them as dangerous, a rogue company with reckless ambitions. Every press release, every blog post, every tweet twisted the narrative, planting seeds of doubt in the minds of the public and investors alike. Anna and Emily stood in the middle of the war room, surrounded by the team, watching the storm unfold. They've already frozen our capital, Anna said, looking at the monitor. All of our investors are pulling out until we can prove we're not a national security risk. Emily's eyes were cold. Get me the CEO of every bank and investor that's backed us. I'm going to talk to them. The video call was brief. Emily watched the faces of the investors, their expressions unreadable. Tesla has already made sure we're guilty in the court of public opinion, she said, voice calm but sharp. They've made us look like a ticking time bomb. But you know us. You've seen the tech. You know this isn't a risk, it's the future. And the truth is, they're not afraid of the Hummer engine's performance. She leaned in, her voice dropping lower. They're afraid that if we succeed, they lose the narrative. The control. One by one, the investors spoke, their words hesitant at first but gradually becoming more supportive. Then, an unexpected call came in. It was Jason. Emily hesitated but picked up. His voice was tense. They're playing dirty, Em. The ransomware. It's just the beginning. They've already got people inside your team. I don't know who, but you need to find out. It's the only way to stop them. Emily's pulse quickened. What are you talking about? Check your internal logs. Start with the contractor who set up your last server. Don't trust your internal team entirely. The call cut out. Her mind spun. Someone inside. Who? But she couldn't waste time asking questions. Not now. Tesla had gone too far. It was time to fight back. The war room was eerily quiet, the only sound the tapping of fingers on touchscreens and the occasional murmur of a frantic conversation. The pressure was suffocating, and the weight of Tesla's attacks was finally starting to show. Emily, her mind in a fog, paced the length of the room as she tried to connect the dots. Jason's words echoed in her head. Check your internal logs. Start with the contractor who set up your last server. She grabbed her tablet and began sifting through the logs. The contractor, a small firm called Ecotech, had been brought in 3 months ago to help overhaul Koenigsegg's cloud architecture. Their system had been flawless, until now. She found a connection. Ecotech had accessed more than just the server. They'd gotten into the core systems, even the classified design files for the Hummer engine. A chill ran down her spine. The trace led to a name, Jordan Hawkins. He'd been the lead contact from Ecotech and had personally overseen the installation of their security protocols. Now, Emily couldn't shake the growing suspicion. She tapped Anna's shoulder. Get me Rafik. Now, she said, her voice tight. Anna nodded and quickly called him in. Within minutes, Rafik appeared, looking harried but composed. What's the situation? Ecotech, Emily said, her voice steady. I need you to dig into their lead contractor, Jordan Hawkins. He's the one who set up our server. Rafik raised an eyebrow. You think he's involved? I think Tesla's too clean in this mess. They're too coordinated. The ransomware attacks and the leaks, it doesn't add up unless we've got an insider. Rafik took the tablet and skimmed through the logs. His expression darkened as he reached the same conclusion. I'll have security pull his files. But you need to prepare yourself, M. If Hawkins is our guy, it means the breach has been deeper than we thought. The hours stretched into a blur of constant phone calls and frantic messages as Emily's suspicion grew more dangerous. Was it possible? Could someone they had trusted from the inside have betrayed them? Rafik returned with a report. His face was grim. It's worse than I thought. Emily turned sharply. What do you mean? Hawkins accessed the entire network twice in the last month, and not just to set up the servers. He was reviewing the HIMR tech specs, the exact algorithm for the propulsion system. And he did it under the guise of maintenance work. Did he leave a trace? Not exactly. He covered his tracks, but it's clear he was digging. This isn't a coincidence. Tesla was targeting us, and Hawkins gave them the access they needed. Emily's heart raced. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. They weren't just fighting a corporation. They were fighting a network of people from the inside, people who had been embedded in their very system, who knew everything. Every flaw, every secret. Every weakness. Rafik took a deep breath. We can't ignore this. We need to confront Hawkins. And we need to decide what to do next. They found him the next day, still working at his desk in the security office. Jordan Hawkins was a nondescript man in his early 30s, always quiet, always efficient. He'd seemed harmless, just another contractor doing his job. Emily couldn't believe it. The man she had trusted, the man who had set up their entire cloud infrastructure, was now a potential traitor. Rafik led the confrontation, his voice calm but authoritative. Jordan, he said, we need to talk. Hawkins looked up, his eyes darting to Emily. What's this about? We've been monitoring access logs, and we know what you've been doing, Emily said, her voice colder than she intended. You've been accessing sensitive files. We need answers. Hawkins stiffened. I don't know what you're talking about. No games, Rafik cut in. We know you've been in contact with Tesla. We have the proof. For a long moment, Hawkins didn't speak. Then, slowly, his shoulders slumped, and his eyes dropped to the floor. I didn't have a choice, he muttered. Emily stepped closer. You didn't have a choice. What does that mean? Hawkins hesitated, then looked up, his eyes filled with guilt. Tesla offered me a deal. They said they'd make sure I was set for life. I was working for them from the start. I was just a middleman. I didn't know how deep it would go. Emily felt a pang of betrayal slice through her chest. You sold us out. You sold me out. How could you? I never meant for it to go this far, Hawkins said, his voice shaky. They didn't just want your tech. They wanted to crush you. They said if they could control the narrative, they could stop you. They promised me that I'd have everything I needed if I helped them win this. I thought it was just about stealing a few files. Emily took a step back. Her thoughts raced. This wasn't just an act of betrayal, it was a war on everything they had built. Hawkins had been a pawn in a much larger game, but he had still chosen sides. You've compromised everything, Emily whispered. You've put us all at risk. Hawkins seemed to collapse inward, the weight of his actions finally sinking in. I was desperate. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't think. It doesn't matter what you thought, Rafik interjected. You've endangered millions of lives with your greed. The room was silent for a long moment, the tension hanging heavy. Emily stood, still processing the betrayal, trying to find the right words. Finally, she spoke. We need to stop this. Now. Rafik's team moved quickly, handling the legal side of things, while Emily made a tough call to the Koenigsegg board. The decision was made: Hawkins would be detained for questioning while they pursued all possible avenues to expose Tesla's attack. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Hawkins may have been the mole, but the true enemy was still lurking in the shadows. The tension in the Koenigsegg war room had reached a breaking point. Emily stood by the window, watching the early morning fog roll over the city of Gothenburg. The calm outside was a stark contrast to the storm raging within the company. The last few days had been a blur of security breaches, misinformation campaigns, and an ever-growing feeling that Tesla's attacks were just the tip of the iceberg. Emily's phone buzzed. It was Rafik. "We've got the full intel," his voice crackled through the speaker. "You need to see this." "On my way." When Emily arrived at Rafik's office, the screens were filled with data, spreadsheets, and red flags. He didn't waste any time. "Look at this," Rafik said, pointing to a series of encrypted files on his monitor. "We've traced back Tesla's moves, not just the hacking, but their influence in the market. They've been quietly buying up stock in Koenigsegg under false names, positioning themselves to take a majority stake." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "They're trying to buy us out." "No, Rafik said grimly, "they're trying to dismantle us from within. By controlling a portion of our stock, they can force the board's hand, making it easier for them to launch a hostile takeover." Emily's mind raced. It made sense, too much sense. Tesla wasn't just attacking them technologically, they were using financial warfare to cripple their company, gaining leverage over their assets and pushing Koenigsegg into a vulnerable position. "How long has this been going on?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. "At least 6 months, Rafik replied. "It's a coordinated effort. Controlling the narrative, financial destabilization, hacking our systems, all while they paint us as a threat to national security. And now, they're trying to undermine our stock price by flooding the market with fake news about the Hummer engine." Emily rubbed her temples, trying to absorb the scale of Tesla's attack. But then, a nagging thought crossed her mind. Do we know who's behind it? Who's orchestrating all of this? Rafik looked at the screen. "I've traced the funds. It's Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk." Emily froze. Musk. The man who had once been hailed as the visionary of the electric car world. Now, he was an adversary, orchestrating a silent war on them. "But why?" she murmured. "Why go this far? Why not just compete like everyone else?" "Because we're not just competitors," Rafik replied, his voice low. "You and the Hummer engine, it's personal to him. Tesla's been struggling with the innovation gap. They've seen the writing on the wall. If you succeed, you'll eclipse everything they've built. And Musk won't let that happen." Back in the war room, the team gathered around as Emily absorbed the gravity of the situation. This was no longer a simple corporate rivalry. Tesla's attacks had escalated from sabotage to full-scale warfare. They weren't just battling for supremacy in the electric vehicle market anymore. It was about power. Control. Dominance. Anna, her eyes red from lack of sleep, spoke first. "So, what do we do now? Do we let them tear us apart?" Emily looked at each of their faces. They were all worn down by the pressure, but the determination in their eyes was unwavering. They couldn't back down. They wouldn't. "We fight," Emily said, her voice firm. "We expose everything. We take the battle public. Tesla's been playing dirty, manipulating markets, hacking our systems, and threatening our future. We're going to show the world the truth." Rafik nodded, but there was an edge to his expression. "It won't be easy. We'll have to go to the press, risk legal battles, and put everything on the line. They'll counterattack with even more force. Then we fight fire with fire," Emily replied, her jaw set. "But we do it smart. We won't stoop to their level of dishonesty. We'll make sure the public knows that they're not the innovators anymore. We are." The room fell silent, the weight of Emily's words hanging in the air. But even as the team rallied behind her, Emily couldn't shake the question that lingered in her mind: would exposing Tesla's manipulation truly be enough to stop them? Or was the battle already lost? The next day, Koenigsegg's legal team and PR department went into overdrive. Emily met with their top lawyers, strategizing how to handle the inevitable media storm. They needed to act quickly, but they also had to be precise. "We need the evidence," one of the lawyers said. "If we go public without the proof, Tesla's legal team will shred us. They've got more money and resources than we can imagine." Emily stared at the evidence Rafik had gathered. The stock manipulation, the hacking, the leaks, it was all there. But they needed more. They needed Tesla's underhanded tactics to be exposed to the public in a way that left no room for doubt. "We're going to leak everything," Emily said decisively. "Every email, every bank transaction, every conversation we have on record with Hawkins. Let's show the world exactly how far Musk is willing to go." Later that afternoon, the world began to turn. The first article dropped: Tesla's secret campaign to destroy Koenigsegg revealed. The headline caught fire across social media and news outlets, and soon, the story was everywhere. Emily watched from her office as journalists scrambled for interviews, and the public began to question everything they thought they knew about Tesla. But the real bombshell was still to come. Emily and Rafik held a final press conference in front of the Koenigsegg headquarters. Emily stood at the podium, calm but resolute, as cameras flashed and microphones were thrust toward her. She could feel the world watching. "It's time to expose the truth," she began, her voice steady. "For months, Tesla has waged a covert war against our company. They've manipulated the market, hacked our systems, and tried to buy us out from within. But today, we reveal everything." She stepped back, and the screen behind her lit up with documents, emails, and video footage, all damning evidence that Tesla had orchestrated a campaign to destroy Koenigsegg, using every dirty trick in the book. "This is not innovation. This is sabotage," Emily said. "And we won't stand for it." The fallout from the exposé was immediate and ruthless. News outlets from all corners of the globe were buzzing with headlines about Tesla's covert war on Koenigsegg. Emily could feel the momentum shift as the public's perception of the EV giant began to crack. They had done it, they had pulled the curtain back on Tesla's dark side. But as the dust began to settle, Emily knew the fight was far from over. The war had only just begun. It came in waves. The first wave was subtle, a flood of legal threats, accusations, and behind-the-scenes maneuvering. Tesla's lawyers were quick to file cease and desist orders, demanding that Koenigsegg retract the leaked documents and clear the air. They painted Emily and her team as reckless, claiming that the evidence they released was incomplete and misleading. They even suggested that Koenigsegg had fabricated the information in an attempt to slander Tesla's reputation. But the real counterattack came from the media. Tesla, ever the master of narrative control, launched a multi-million-dollar PR blitz. Within days, Koenigsegg found itself in the crosshairs of a coordinated campaign designed to destroy its credibility. The headlines quickly shifted. Koenigsegg's expose, under scrutiny, did they lie about Tesla's attacks? Tesla responds, Koenigsegg leaked false evidence to damage reputation. Emily sat at her desk, reading through the endless barrage of negative articles. Her heart pounded as she scrolled through the headlines. Tesla had hired some of the best PR firms in the world, and they were playing dirty. They twisted the narrative, accusing Koenigsegg of hacking Tesla's systems in retaliation. They even spread rumors that Emily was involved in the cyber attacks, casting a shadow over her leadership. It was a calculated, brutal assault. Tesla's strategy was clear: discredit Koenigsegg before the public had a chance to fully digest the truth. They knew the power of perception. If they could make Koenigsegg look like the villain, they could turn the tide in their favor. And that's exactly what they were doing. "We've got to fight back," Emily said, slamming her tablet onto the desk. Her team gathered around her, the exhaustion visible on their faces, but their resolve was unbroken. "We can't let them control the narrative," Rafik said, his eyes burning with determination. "We need a counter-strategy, and fast. If we don't act now, we risk losing everything we've worked for." "We need to take control of the story," Emily said. "We need to show them that we're not just a small player in the EV world. We're a force to be reckoned with. They want a war. We'll give them one." The days that followed were a blur of activity as Emily and her team worked tirelessly to rebuild Koenigsegg's reputation. They were up against one of the most powerful companies in the world, but they had one advantage: the truth. The first step was to get ahead of Tesla's lies. Emily knew that if they didn't control the message, Tesla would win by default. She called an emergency press conference, determined to turn the tables. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here," Emily began, standing before the cameras with confidence she didn't feel. "We stand here today to reaffirm that the evidence we released is 100% accurate. Tesla's tactics were nothing short of corporate espionage. And we will not back down from exposing the truth." The room was silent as Emily's words hit the airwaves. The reporters had been primed by Tesla's smear campaign, but there was something different in Emily's delivery. She wasn't just defending Koenigsegg. She was fighting for something larger. For truth, integrity, and the future of innovation. "The documents we released were carefully verified," she continued. "We are committed to transparency. Tesla's attempts to manipulate the narrative only reinforce what we've known all along: they will do anything to maintain their control, even if it means destroying an entire company. But we won't let them." As Emily spoke, Rafik and Anna were busy setting up a public-facing database, a secure online platform that allowed the public and journalists to access every piece of evidence Koenigsegg had collected. They opened the floodgates, giving the world a direct line to the truth. The response was overwhelming. Within hours, social media was alive with conversation. Journalists, influencers, and analysts began sifting through the new data, validating Koenigsegg's claims. The tide slowly started to turn as people began to realize that Tesla's accusations were weak, based on nothing more than their word against Koenigsegg's hard evidence. But Tesla didn't back down. They hit back harder. They launched a full-scale attack on Koenigsegg's future. Within 48 hours, a new report emerged: Koenigsegg's Hummer engine development in jeopardy, financial trouble looms. It was another calculated move. Tesla had begun to spread rumors that Koenigsegg was facing financial instability due to the media firestorm. They painted the company as desperate, suggesting that they might not even be able to finish the development of the Hummer engine. But Emily wasn't fazed. She had known this was coming. "Rafik, get in touch with our investors. We need to release our own financial report. Show them that we're solvent, and we're not going anywhere," Emily said, her voice steely. As Rafik worked on the financials, Emily prepared for the next step: an exclusive interview with the world's leading automotive publication, Motor Trend. She needed to give the public a face to the story, a personal connection to Koenigsegg's mission. The world needed to hear her passion, her vision for the future. The interview went live the next day, and it became the most watched automotive interview in history. Emily spoke not just about Koenigsegg, but about what it meant to innovate, to push boundaries, to challenge the status quo. Her words resonated with millions of viewers. "Koenigsegg is more than just a car company," she said. "We're a movement. We're creating a future where technology works for the people, not just for the corporations. And we won't stop. Tesla may have the resources, but we have the spirit." By the end of the week, Tesla's counterattack had begun to backfire. The public was starting to see through their smokescreen. The stock market remained volatile, but Koenigsegg's brand strength had never been higher. Investors began pulling away from Tesla, wary of their tactics. The tables were slowly, but surely, turning. But as Emily sat in her office, watching the news unfold, she couldn't shake the feeling that Tesla had one final move left. They hadn't shown their full hand yet. And Emily had no idea what that final move would be. The calm before the storm. It was the silence that unnerved Emily. After weeks of relentless conflict, she'd expected Tesla to strike back with more force. But instead, there was an eerie lull. Tesla had pulled back, their media presence went dark, their legal threats disappeared. For the first time in weeks, Emily felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they were winning. But she knew better than to relax. She'd seen enough to know that Tesla never backed down, not unless they had something bigger in play. Her instincts were right. The first sign came through a confidential tip-off from one of their own internal contacts at Tesla. The message was simple, cryptic, and chilling: watch the skies. Emily's heart skipped a beat. What could that possibly mean? She gathered Rafik, Anna, and the rest of the team in the war room. The screen flickered to life, showing the encrypted message. Emily's mind raced as she processed the implications. What do you think this means? Emily asked, glancing up at Rafik. He was already pulling up satellite data and flight patterns. It could be a reference to something bigger than we've anticipated, Rafik said, his face growing pale. Tesla has always had its hand in advanced technologies, especially drones and AI-driven systems. If they're hinting at something airborne. Airborne? Anna interrupted, her eyes widening. You don't think? We can't rule anything out, Emily replied, her voice steady despite the growing tension. They've already demonstrated that they'll go to any lengths to win. This could be their final move. They could be preparing for something massive. Suddenly, Emily's phone buzzed. It was an alert from a global aviation tracking system. Check this out, Emily muttered, her voice tight with apprehension. A flight from Tesla's headquarters in California just took off. It's heading directly toward Gothenburg. Rafik's fingers flew over his keyboard as he pulled up more data. It's an unmarked aircraft, and it's heading straight for us. It's definitely not a normal commercial flight. This is no coincidence. Anna looked from one screen to the other, her face growing pale. What do we do? Emily took a deep breath. They had no choice but to prepare. If Tesla was willing to go this far, they had to be ready for anything. The hours that followed were a blur of frantic activity. The team went into lockdown mode, reinforcing Koenigsegg's security, setting up emergency protocols, and coordinating with local authorities. But deep down, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to face something they hadn't anticipated, something far more dangerous than any lawsuit or media war. As night fell, the atmosphere in the Koenigsegg headquarters was heavy with anxiety. Every few minutes, Emily would check the flight tracker, and every time, the plane seemed to be getting closer. It's coming, Rafik said, his voice grim. Whatever Tesla's planning, it's about to hit. Suddenly, the sirens blared. The warning lights flashed on the security monitors. It wasn't just the flight they needed to worry about. Tesla had launched a coordinated cyber attack, overwhelming Koenigsegg's defenses and breaking through several layers of their digital security. Emily clenched her fists. They're trying to disable our systems, they're going after the Himmer engine data. If they get it, they'll sabotage everything we've built. Anna's fingers flew across her keyboard. I've got backup systems in place, but this attack is relentless. We can't hold them off forever. Keep fighting, Emily ordered. We can't let them have it. If we lose control of the Himmer project, it's over. As they battled the cyber attack, the aircraft's proximity alarm blared again. The unmarked plane was now mere miles away. Emily's heart raced. Tesla was playing their final gambit, and the pieces were falling into place. Then, without warning, the sound of a loud explosion shook the building. The lights flickered, and the ground trembled beneath them. Emily and her team rushed to the windows, their eyes widening in disbelief. The sky was illuminated with a burst of fire, and the unmistakable shape of a drone was silhouetted against the smoke-filled sky. It was huge. A military-grade drone armed with what looked like missiles. "They've sent in drones," Rafik said, his voice filled with shock. "They're trying to take us out." Emily's mind raced as she processed the horror of what was happening. Tesla had launched a full-scale attack on Koenigsegg, and it wasn't just financial or digital warfare anymore. This was physical, it was a military strike. The team scattered to the security panels, trying to coordinate with local law enforcement and the military, but the situation was deteriorating too quickly. The drones hovered above the building, scanning for weak points, preparing for another strike. They knew Koenigsegg's position was now compromised. "Emily, we have to move," Anna shouted. "We need to get out of here before they launch another attack." But Emily didn't move. Her gaze was fixed on the massive drone hovering outside. They had come this far, they had weathered every storm Tesla had thrown their way. This time, they were going to fight back. "No," Emily said, her voice steady. "We fight. We expose them for who they really are." She picked up the phone and dialed an emergency number, connecting with local authorities. She didn't have time to explain the full extent of the situation. The message was simple. "Tesla's attacking us. We need help, now." Minutes later, military vehicles stormed into the Koenigsegg compound, taking position around the perimeter. They brought with them anti-drone technology that would help neutralize Tesla's aerial threat. The drones above began to lose their signal. One by one, they fell from the sky, disabled by the military's countermeasures. But Tesla had one more trick up their sleeve. A second explosion rocked the building, this time a controlled blast aimed at the server room. Emily knew what this meant. If they couldn't stop the damage, Koenigsegg would lose the entirety of their Himmer engine data, their lifeblood. But the military was ready. Within minutes, they had disabled the explosive devices and secured the building. The skies cleared, the explosion stopped, and Emily let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. The immediate threat was over. But Tesla's final gambit had shaken them to their core. Emily knew one thing: this battle was far from over. Tesla's aggression had escalated to unimaginable levels. They had shown their willingness to destroy everything, to sacrifice anyone, just to stay on top. But Emily wasn't going to let that happen. Not on her watch. The war wasn't over. Not yet. The dust had barely settled from Tesla's drone attack when Emily realized that Koenigsegg had entered a new kind of war, one that would not be fought in boardrooms or online forums, but in the very streets of Gothenburg. The chaos outside was a stark reminder of just how far Tesla was willing to go. The drones had been destroyed, but the physical damage to their building was substantial. It wasn't just the loss of critical data they had to worry about now. Tesla had sent a message: Koenigsegg could be taken out, at any time. Emily stood at the window of her office, staring out over the wreckage. The flames from the earlier explosion had dimmed, but the threat still lingered in the air like an electrical storm waiting to hit. She didn't have time to reflect, though. The next move had to be calculated, and it had to be fast. "We need to hit them back," Rafik said, his voice tense as he leaned over her shoulder, analyzing the damage reports. "But this time, we need to make it personal. Tesla's going to keep escalating. We need leverage." Emily didn't respond at first. Her mind was working overtime, racing through their options. They had already exposed Tesla's illegal dealings, but Tesla was too powerful. They had just tried to destroy them, physically and digitally. It was time to stop playing defense. "Rafik, get me everything we have on Tesla's supply chain," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "We're going to hit them where it hurts the most." By late afternoon, Koenigsegg's war room was buzzing with energy. Emily and her team had put together a plan that felt like it was born from desperation, but in their current position, desperation was the only thing that could save them. Tesla's operations were spread out over multiple countries. Its supply chain, from manufacturing facilities to critical suppliers, was massive and complex. Emily knew that the key to Tesla's success was its ability to move at lightning speed, making it nearly impossible to disrupt. But they weren't trying to disrupt Tesla entirely, they were going to slow them down. In a world where timing was everything, even a small delay could be enough to shift the balance of power. "Are you sure this will work?" Anna asked, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. She was looking at a monitor that displayed critical suppliers to Tesla's battery production. "If we pull this off, it could ruin their ability to deliver on their next-gen electric vehicle lineup." "It'll work," Emily said, her gaze unwavering. "Tesla may be able to control the media, the stock market, and even the courts, but they don't control every supplier. If we target the right ones, we can cause a serious bottleneck. They'll be forced to respond, and it will distract them. It's their weak point." Rafik nodded, already assembling a list of suppliers that Tesla relied on for raw materials. He quickly started drafting letters, fake orders, urgent contract disputes, all designed to create a domino effect of delays and logistical chaos. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind. The operation, codenamed Project Eclipse, was set in motion. Emily knew it was a risky play. It could push Tesla into a corner, forcing them to reveal more about their operations. But it was also their best shot at regaining the upper hand. Rafik worked his magic, using encrypted channels to send out the fabricated orders to key suppliers, creating a network of chaos that Tesla wouldn't be able to ignore. Within hours, parts of Tesla's supply chain began to buckle. Orders were delayed, shipments went missing, and Tesla's production timeline started to unravel. But Emily wasn't naive. She knew that Tesla was going to retaliate, and she had to be prepared for the worst. The phone rang, pulling Emily from her thoughts. She glanced at the screen. It was an encrypted call from her contact inside Tesla. She answered immediately, her mind racing with possibilities. "Emily, it's going down," the voice on the other end whispered. "They know what you did. They're preparing for a counterattack. But, there's something else. Tesla's CEO, Elijah Marlowe, he's going rogue." "Explain," Emily said, her pulse quickening. "Elijah's lost control of the situation. The board's furious with him for what happened with the drones. He's getting desperate. There's a new plan in motion, something much more dangerous than what you've seen so far. Tesla's working with a private military contractor. They're planning something big." "Where?" Emily's voice was icy, a mix of disbelief and urgency. "There's a shipment heading for Gothenburg tonight. Heavy cargo. The kind of equipment that could flatten your entire operation in minutes. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a game changer. They're coming for you." The call ended abruptly, and Emily was left standing in stunned silence. "Everyone, listen up," she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension in the room. "Tesla's planning something major. We don't know exactly what, but it's coming tonight. I need everyone on high alert." Anna and Rafik immediately began pulling up surveillance footage and satellite data, trying to track the mysterious shipment. The room was a blur of activity as Koenigsegg's security team prepared for what could be an all-out assault. Emily's thoughts raced. Was this their final move? Had Tesla reached the edge of destruction? The next few hours would decide everything. As night fell, the streets of Gothenburg took on a sinister feeling. Emily stood with Rafik and Anna in the command center, watching the security feeds as military-grade vehicles began to move into position outside the city. "They're here," Rafik muttered, his face grim. "Whatever they're carrying, it's not something we can fight with drones or digital warfare. We'll need boots on the ground." Emily nodded, already assembling a team of Koenigsegg's most elite security personnel. This wasn't just about the future of their company anymore, it was about survival. The stakes had never been higher. "We fight with everything we've got," Emily said, her voice resolute. "We can't let them destroy us." At 2 a.m., the first wave of Tesla's assault hit. The streets outside were flooded with armored vehicles and private contractors, menacingly marching toward Koenigsegg's compound. They were ready for war. But Emily and her team had a surprise waiting for them. The roar of engines echoed through the cold, dark streets of Gothenburg as armored vehicles rumbled toward Koenigsegg's compound. Emily watched from the war room, her breath held tight in her chest. Tesla's private military contractors were here, and this wasn't a negotiation, it was a siege. "Are we ready?" Emily's voice was low but commanding. Her hands gripped the edge of the desk as she stared at the map of their compound, every possible escape route, every vulnerable point in view. "Ready as we'll ever be," Rafik replied, his eyes scanning the security feeds. "We've got 5 minutes before they reach the perimeter. Local law enforcement's on the way, but they're not going to make it in time. It's just us." Anna stood by the window, watching the road outside. "They're moving fast. We don't have much time." Emily's mind raced, calculating their options. Tesla had come prepared, and this time, it wasn't about drones or cyber attacks. They were bringing heavy artillery, military-grade weapons, possibly even a tank. Tesla was trying to crush them, physically and symbolically. The question was, could they hold their ground? "Activate the defense systems," Emily said firmly. "Prepare the EMPs and the anti-tank barriers. I want the perimeter locked down within the next 2 minutes. And make sure our people are in position." As Rafik worked the controls, Emily stepped back and took a breath. This was it, the final confrontation. There was no more room for mistakes, no room for hesitation. Koenigsegg had already bled enough, but they weren't about to roll over. Tesla wanted war. They would get one. Outside, the convoy of Tesla's contractors grew closer. Armored trucks and jeeps moved in tight formation, headlights cutting through the fog. The air was thick with tension, and Emily could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Every decision she made now would decide whether or not Koenigsegg survived. "They're in range," Anna said, her fingers flying across the controls as she tapped into the compound security systems. "Stand by," Emily ordered. Her eyes narrowed as the first of the armored vehicles appeared on the screens. They were close, too close. She didn't want to fight. She didn't want bloodshed. But if Tesla was willing to go this far, there was no choice. Suddenly, the rumbling of engines grew louder, and the first vehicle crossed into their perimeter. That was it. The countdown had begun. "Engage!" Emily shouted. The sound of gunfire tore through the silence as the first round of anti-tank missiles slammed into the front of Tesla's convoy. The explosion lit up the night sky, sending debris flying in all directions. Koenigsegg's heavy-duty defense systems had been designed for just such a scenario, and it had taken Tesla's forces by surprise. But Tesla wasn't going down easily. Within moments, the remaining armored vehicles returned fire, launching smoke grenades to obscure their movements. Tesla's contractors weren't afraid to engage in direct combat. They had come prepared for this. "We've got incoming," Rafik warned, his fingers moving furiously across the keyboard. "Missile lock on our eastern flank. We need to move the tanks into position." Emily didn't hesitate. "Do it. Now." The compound shook as a second missile exploded near the eastern barrier. The shockwave rattled the windows, and alarms blared throughout the building. Tesla was going all in, trying to break through with overwhelming force. Outside, the battle intensified. Tesla's mercenaries were now dismounting from their vehicles, moving toward the main entrance of the Koenigsegg facility on foot. Armed with assault rifles, they were closing in. "Where's our backup?" Emily demanded, her heart pounding in her chest. Local authorities had promised reinforcements, but so far, they were nowhere to be seen. "They're still 5 minutes out," Rafik said, voice strained. "We're on our own." "Then we fight," Emily said firmly. She looked at Anna, who was already setting up the secondary defense lines. We need to buy time until they get here. Keep them distracted. We'll hit them where it hurts. The sound of gunfire rang out again as Tesla's contractors pushed forward. They had reached the gates, but they were met with a wall of resistance from Koenigsegg's own security team. The two sides exchanged volleys of fire, the night illuminated by explosions and the staccato of automatic rifles. Emily's mind was laser-focused as she directed the defense efforts. Their best advantage was the terrain. The compound was surrounded by dense woods and cliffs, and they could use that to funnel Tesla's forces into kill zones. She ordered their drones to sweep over the area, mapping out the advancing soldiers' positions. "We've got them pinned," Anna said. "But they're relentless. I don't know how long we can hold them off." Emily didn't have an answer. She couldn't afford to think that far ahead. All that mattered now was surviving the next few minutes. "Stay sharp," Emily barked. "Hold the line." Outside, the chaos reached its peak. Tesla's forces were now all but inside the compound's outer defenses, but Koenigsegg's security forces were giving them a hell of a fight. They had no intention of giving up ground easily. But then, as if on cue, the distant sound of sirens began to grow louder. Reinforcements had arrived. Anna's face lit up with relief. "It's the cavalry. They're here." Just as the first wave of local law enforcement stormed into the compound, Tesla made their final, most desperate move. A massive explosive device, planted under one of the main buildings, was set to detonate. Emily's eyes widened as the countdown began. "We have less than a minute," she shouted. "Rafik, can we stop it?" "I'm on it," Rafik replied, his voice tinged with panic. His fingers flew across his keyboard as he scrambled to disable the device. Seconds ticked by, each one more agonizing than the last. Emily's pulse raced as she kept her eyes locked on the timer. Finally, Rafik gave a breathless shout. "I've got it. The bomb is disarmed." Emily exhaled in relief. The danger was over, but the fight wasn't. Tesla had failed to breach the compound, but they hadn't lost either. This battle was just the beginning of something bigger. As the dawn finally broke, the sounds of battle faded into the distance. Koenigsegg's team had successfully repelled Tesla's assault, but the cost was high. Several buildings had been destroyed, and their security forces had suffered casualties. Emily stood outside the war room, staring at the wreckage. They had survived, but at what cost? Tesla's assault had shown just how far they were willing to go. It was clear now that there was no negotiating with them. The war wasn't over. It had just begun. And Emily knew that the only way out of this was to end it, for good. The aftermath of the battle for Gothenburg was still fresh. Smoke curled into the morning air as Koenigsegg's compound began the long process of recovery. The city was waking up to a new reality, a reality where corporate giants fought not just with technology, but with brute force. Emily stood at the edge of the battlefield, staring at the wreckage of Tesla's vehicles that had been left behind. Her heart was still racing from the chaos of the night before. They had won, but the victory felt hollow. Tesla was not a company that could be defeated so easily. Their thirst for control was unrelenting. As she turned back toward the main building, Rafik approached her with a data tablet in hand. His face was serious, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Emily, you need to see this," he said quietly. Without saying a word, she took the tablet from him. The screen flickered to life, revealing a series of encrypted files. Rafik had spent the past several hours decrypting Tesla's internal communications, and what he had found was far worse than anything they could have imagined. Emily's eyes skimmed the text, her pulse quickening as she read. The files were part of a larger internal investigation that Tesla had been running for months, a high-level investigation into their own CEO, Elijah Marlowe. What they uncovered in the documents was shocking. "Elijah Marlowe," Emily murmured under her breath, "he's been embezzling funds. Large amounts." Rafik nodded grimly. "And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's more. Emily's mind raced as she processed the information. Tesla was a company that had built its empire on the idea of sustainability and innovation. But now, it seemed the truth behind the curtain was far darker. The files revealed that Marlowe had been siphoning money from Tesla's renewable energy initiatives and funneling it into private accounts. But it didn't stop there. There were also references to black market dealings, illegal contracts, illicit partnerships with energy corporations that were anything but green. This goes way beyond corporate corruption, Emily said quietly, her voice tight with disbelief. He's been secretly building an army, and not just any army, a mercenary force. Rafik scrolled through the encrypted files, and as he did, a map appeared on the screen. This is where it gets interesting, Rafik continued. It looks like Marlowe has been using Tesla's resources to fund military contractors, under the guise of advanced research projects. These contractors are operating outside the law, and the tech they've been developing, it's terrifying. Emily's stomach churned. Tesla wasn't just building cars and solar panels. They were building weapons. Advanced, military-grade technology designed to subjugate, not save. We need to expose this, Emily said, her voice hard with resolve. This isn't just about Koenigsegg anymore. It's about the future of the world. If Marlowe has been secretly preparing for war, we have to stop him. By mid-afternoon, Emily and Rafik had gathered the rest of the team for an emergency meeting. Anna was the first to speak up. So, Tesla's CEO is a criminal mastermind, Anna said, leaning over the table. How do we stop him? We need proof, Emily said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. We already have some damning files, but we need more. We need to tie Marlowe's actions directly to the illegal military operations. Rafik cleared his throat. I've been digging into Tesla's financial records. There's a shell company, one that Tesla's been funneling money into, that's been directly linked to weapons manufacturing. If we can get into their database, we can access the proof we need. Then that's where we start, Emily decided. We infiltrate the company's data center and get the files. It's a risky move, but it's the only way to bring this to light. Later that night, as the Koenigsegg team prepared for their next move, Emily found herself standing in front of a map of Tesla's global operations. They were about to go on the offensive. No more hiding, no more playing defense. Tesla had crossed a line, and now it was time to take the fight to them. We need to do this fast, Emily said to the team. If we don't act quickly, Tesla will find a way to cover this up. We expose Marlowe now, or we may never get the chance. Rafik, Anna, and the rest of the security team exchanged looks of determination. Emily could feel the weight of the decision they were about to make. This wasn't just about a business rivalry anymore. This was about the future of global power, and the way technology could be used, or abused, to control the world. They moved swiftly. Rafik had already tapped into Tesla's encrypted communications, finding a weak point in their cybersecurity. The mission was simple. Hack into the data center, extract the necessary files, and expose Tesla for what it truly was. The infiltration was smooth, almost too smooth. They had expected more resistance, but it seemed Tesla had underestimated them. Or perhaps, they had become so arrogant in their power that they had let their guard down. Emily and Rafik were in the data center, the air cold and sterile as they worked silently to retrieve the information. The screen flickered as Rafik bypassed the final layer of encryption. Got it, he said, his voice filled with both relief and excitement. I'm pulling the files now. This will take them down, Emily. It's all here. Emily watched as the documents began to download, her heart pounding in her chest. In a matter of minutes, Tesla's darkest secrets would be exposed to the world. The world would finally know the truth about Marlowe and the corrupt empire he had built. But just as they were about to finish, the unthinkable happened. The doors to the data center slammed open, and Tesla's mercenaries stormed in. Not so fast, Ms. Winters, a voice called out from the shadows. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Standing in the doorway was Elijah Marlowe himself. His cold, calculating gaze locked onto hers, and for the first time since this war had started, Emily felt fear. "You're too late," Marlowe said with a smile. "I knew you would come for this information. But you underestimated just how far I'm willing to go to protect my legacy." The cold, sterile walls of Tesla's data center seemed to close in on Emily as she faced Elijah Marlowe. His eyes gleamed with an unnerving confidence, as if he were somehow always one step ahead. He stood tall in the doorway, his arms crossed, the faintest smile playing on his lips. "You shouldn't have come here," Marlowe said coolly, his voice cutting through the tension in the room. "I warned you, Emily. You can't win this. You think exposing the truth will stop me? It's far too late for that." Emily stood her ground, though her heart pounded in her chest. The files they had stolen, the damning evidence of Marlowe's corruption, his illegal dealings, and the covert military contracts, were seconds away from being uploaded to the world. The stakes had never been higher. This wasn't just about exposing a corrupt CEO. This was about saving the world from a future under the control of a man who had no qualms about using power and violence to achieve his goals. "I'm not here to win," Emily replied, her voice steady. "I'm here to make sure the world knows the truth about you. About what you've built on lies and manipulation. The world deserves to know what Tesla really is, what you really are." Marlowe chuckled, a sound that sent a chill down Emily's spine. "You think I care about public perception? This company, this empire, is my creation. I built it from nothing. I've given humanity what no one else could, a vision of a cleaner, brighter future. And now you're trying to destroy it." Emily's eyes narrowed. "You've sold the future, Elijah. But you've sold it with blood. Your empire is built on corruption, on exploitation, and on war. You've hidden behind a veil of sustainability for years, but it's all a lie." Marlowe took a step forward, the cold smirk still plastered on his face. "You have no idea what you're up against. You think you can bring down a company like Tesla? With what? A few documents? You think that will stop me?" He motioned toward the armed guards standing at the entrance of the data center, their weapons raised. "These men aren't here just to stop you. They're here to end this war, once and for all." Emily's mind raced. The moment of truth had arrived. She had to make a choice. Stand and fight, or give in to the overwhelming power Tesla had at its disposal. But there was one thing she knew for certain, she wasn't going down without a fight. Rafiq's voice cut through the tension, coming through her earpiece. "Emily, we've got about 60 seconds before the files hit the server. It's now or never. Marlowe won't stop at anything to keep this hidden. We need to finish this." Emily didn't even have to think about it. She knew what she had to do. "Anna, on my mark," she whispered, knowing the team was waiting for her signal. The final phase of their plan had to go off without a hitch. She turned her gaze back to Marlowe. His smug smile had faded, but the confidence in his eyes remained. "I don't need to destroy Tesla, Elijah," Emily said, her voice calm but filled with resolve. "All I need to do is expose you. And then the world will take care of the rest." Marlowe's expression hardened, his eyes flicking to the large, flashing countdown on the screen behind Emily. The files were nearly uploaded. "Get them," Marlowe snapped to his guards. The command sent them rushing forward, weapons raised. Emily's hand flew to her side, and in one swift motion, she triggered the backup system she and Anna had set up. The lights in the data center flickered for a split second before plunging the entire room into darkness. Emergency backup lights flashed on, bathing the room in a red glow that made everything seem more surreal. "What the hell?" Marlowe shouted, his voice suddenly filled with panic. "What's happening?" Before anyone could react, the security cameras blinked out, and Rafiq's voice came through Emily's earpiece once more. "Data's been uploaded. The files are out there. The world has them. You did it, Emily. A roar of anger filled the room as Marlowe turned toward the guards. You idiots. Stop them. Now. But it was too late. Emily had already sent the files to multiple secure, untraceable servers, where they were immediately disseminated to journalists, law enforcement, and industry watchdogs around the world. The truth about Tesla, about Marlowe's illegal operations, and the massive corruption within the company was out in the open. Outside the data center, chaos erupted. Marlowe's mercenaries scrambled to regain control, but their carefully laid plans had been shattered. The power struggle had shifted. Tesla's internal systems began to crash, and their ability to respond to the leaks was crippled. The entire foundation of the company was at risk of collapsing in on itself. As Marlowe stood there, seething with rage, Emily took a steady step forward. You can't hide from this anymore, Emily said, her voice unwavering. You're finished. Marlowe's eyes flashed with a mix of fury and disbelief. You think the world will care? They'll forget in a month, Emily. You've won nothing. Emily's lips curled into a slight smile. Maybe they'll forget. Maybe they won't. But one thing is certain, the world knows the truth now. And you can't unring that bell. Suddenly, the sound of approaching sirens filled the air. The cavalry had arrived. Local authorities, alerted to the leaks and the security breach, were storming Tesla's headquarters. The military contractors Marlowe had employed were now facing a new battle, one against law enforcement and the global public, both of which had now turned against them. Marlowe's facade of power was crumbling, and he knew it. You've lost, Emily said, her voice barely more than a whisper. This ends now. With one final, furious glare, Marlowe turned and stormed out of the room, his mercenaries trailing behind him. Emily knew it wasn't over, not yet. There would still be legal battles, media storms, and political fallout. But the truth had been revealed. The world now knew what Tesla had become under Marlowe's leadership, and no amount of money or power could change that. As Emily watched him disappear into the hallway, her thoughts drifted to the future. Koenigsegg had won this round, but the war for the future of clean energy, innovation, and corporate responsibility had only just begun. The world had changed in an instant. The files Emily and her team had released sent shockwaves through the global corporate landscape. Tesla's empire, once seen as the golden child of the electric vehicle industry, had been exposed for what it truly was, a corrupt, self-serving machine, built on lies and violence. The revelations were more than just a scandal, they were a reckoning. Elijah Marlowe's downfall was swift. As law enforcement and government agencies across the world launched investigations, Tesla's stock plummeted, and major investors pulled their support. The company's long-standing allies, who had once turned a blind eye to its darker dealings, now had no choice but to distance themselves. Tesla's clean energy dream had been sullied beyond repair, and no amount of PR or corporate restructuring could undo the damage. Emily stood in the heart of Koenigsegg's headquarters, watching as her team celebrated the victory they had fought so hard for. The room was filled with the sound of clinking glasses and quiet conversations, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that the work was far from over. Rafik approached her, his eyes filled with pride but also a hint of weariness. We did it, Emily. Tesla is finished. You were right, the world needed to know the truth. Emily nodded, her mind still racing. We exposed Marlowe, but the fight isn't over. There are still those out there who will try to seize his power, to exploit the vacuum left behind. We can't let this moment slip away. We need to ensure that the future isn't just one free from corruption, but one that's truly sustainable. Anna joined them, holding a tablet in her hands. I've been going over the fallout from the leaks. It's massive. There are already investors and tech giants trying to rush in to fill the gap left by Tesla. The battle for the next phase of clean energy is just beginning. Emily smiled, her confidence returning. Let them fight for scraps. We have something they don't. We have integrity. We have the technology, and we have the vision for a better future. The Koenigsegg team had worked tirelessly over the past few years to develop not only revolutionary automotive technology, but also sustainable energy solutions that could change the world. They weren't just building electric vehicles anymore, they were creating a new ecosystem, one where clean energy was the cornerstone of a brighter, more equitable future. A few weeks later, as the world continued to digest the fallout from Tesla's collapse, Koenigsegg unveiled their next big project. The new engine that had been the centerpiece of their battle with Tesla. It wasn't just an engine, it was the key to the next phase of global sustainability. The engine was designed to not only power electric vehicles but also to integrate seamlessly with renewable energy grids, offering a more efficient, decentralized solution to energy storage and distribution. It was the kind of breakthrough that could redefine the way the world thought about power. No longer would nations and corporations hold monopolies over energy. Instead, communities could have access to sustainable power generated by the same systems that powered their cars. Emily stood on stage at the launch event, the crowd of journalists, investors, and industry leaders hanging on her every word. What we're unveiling today is not just the future of transportation. It's the future of the planet, she said, her voice filled with passion. We've built a system that works for everyone, not just the select few who control the world's energy. The crowd erupted into applause, and Emily could feel the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about Koenigsegg, this was about changing the narrative of what it meant to build a successful company in the 21st century. We're standing at the dawn of a new era, Emily continued, her voice steady and resolute. One where sustainability is no longer a luxury, it's a right. One where we don't have to choose between progress and responsibility. And it starts here, with us. Outside the auditorium, as the applause echoed in her ears, Emily felt a deep sense of satisfaction. It wasn't just the launch of a new product. It was the beginning of a movement, one that could redefine the future of energy, transportation, and technology. The world was watching, and for the first time, she felt hopeful. Rafik found her backstage, a grin on his face. I think we've just turned the page, Emily. You did it. We did it. She smiled back, but there was a flicker of concern in her eyes. We've taken the first step. But there are still challenges ahead. There are powerful forces at play, and they won't give up easily. We have to stay vigilant. If we want to make this last, we need to keep pushing forward. Anna joined them, her tablet in hand. The media is already picking up on the launch. People are excited. There's a real appetite for change, and Koenigsegg is leading the charge. Emily's thoughts drifted to the road ahead. They had won the battle against Tesla, but the war for the future of clean energy was far from over. She knew that Koenigsegg would have to keep innovating, keep pushing boundaries, and, most importantly, stay true to their mission, a mission that was never about profit at all costs, but about leaving a legacy that would truly change the world. And then there was the looming question of what would happen to Tesla. Even though Marlowe was finished, the remnants of Tesla's once thriving empire would need to be dealt with. It wasn't just about stopping one man, it was about ensuring that Tesla's corrupt practices didn't continue in a new form, under new leadership. But Emily knew that for now, there was a moment to breathe. Koenigsegg had shown the world that it was possible to build a sustainable, ethical future. And as the applause continued to roll in, Emily allowed herself a small moment of peace. They had done it. They had won. Later that evening, as the event came to a close, Emily stood by the window of her office, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The world outside seemed full of possibilities. Koenigsegg had just turned a page, and so had she. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks. There would be challenges. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't alone, and together with her team, they would lead the charge into the future, a future that wasn't defined by greed or power, but by progress and integrity. Emily took a deep breath and smiled to herself. The dawn of a new era had begun. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?